My name is Riley Meyer Clement. I'm a BMX racer from Quebec City, Quebec, Canada, and this is my YouTube channel. So first things first, my YouTube channel is going to be about reviewing bike parts and also how-tos on bike maintenance, bike repairs, all that stuff. This is a completely non-biased channel. None of these brands that are on my bike sponsor me. I'm sponsored by a bike shop called Performance Bégin in Saint-Augustin, Quebec, Canada. And I'm also representing a maple water brand out of Quebec City. And my buddy's clothing brand, Aspire Athletics Apparel. So, yeah, without further ado, I will be naming off all the parts that I'm going to be using for this bike, and the reason why I'll be using these parts, to give you guys more in-depth information on all these parts. So it'll be an informational video on the parts, kind of a walkthrough of my parts, a brief review of the parts, and also a how-to video on how to set up a bike. So first of all, this is my 2018 GT Speed Series Pro XXL 20-inch frame. I'll be using Shimano DXR cranks, 175 millimeter. I'll be using Shimano DXR pedals. And the reason why I'm going to be using these parts is the GT frame has great geometry, looks amazing, has an amazing quick change dropout technology where it's super easy to change a tube, change a wheel like that. Also, the reason why I'm using last year's model of the frame is because this year's model only comes with disc brake mounts, which I don't have disc brake compatible hubs, and I just got new wheels, so I didn't really find a use for that, so I decided to opt for last year's frame. Then the reason why I'm using the Shimano DXR cranks is they're a classic. They've been used in the sport of BMX for a decade now, and they're just the most reliable, stiffest, strongest crank there is. The chainring I'll be using is a Rennen 43 tooth chainring. Not much to say about chainrings, they're pretty much all the same. And then for pedals, the reason why I'm running the Shimano DXR pedals is because I've ran every pedal on the market except for Crank Brothers. I have not run those yet. I've run Time, I've tried road pedals, I've tried HTs, I've tried all the Shimano pedals that they have. And the problem I've had is a pedal being too loose where you unclip out of the gate. But I've also had a pedal being too tight to where, and also the cleat doesn't have strong enough teeth to grab onto the bottom of the shoe. So how tight the pedal is, it'll make the cleat move around on the bottom of your shoe and ruin your shoe. So I've had pedals do that on me. And so far, these are the tightest pedals I've had. The most customizable pedals because of the bearings. I can make them spin very efficiently with the best cleats, with the best interface towards the shoe, where it'll grab without destroying the carbon on the shoe. Also, the bottom bracket that I'm using is an MFG BB86/92 bottom bracket. It's the only bottom bracket that I could find at my local bike shop that'll fit my bike, and happens to be a good one, where it's a press fit bottom bracket, but it has an internal kind of pressing mechanism where it'll press itself without you needing to buy a $100 bearing press. So it's very handy. So now getting into the build. So first of all, when you're installing your bottom bracket, you want to use grease liberally. So the type of grease that you would want to use is a waterproof marine grease. Any auto shop will have a marine grease, but this is a Park Tool one for specific for bikes, but it doesn't really matter. And you want to apply it liberally to the inside of the frame, to the cups of the bearings, to the inside of the bearings themselves, and then to these little rubber pieces that come for the bearing interface to protect them. You don't want to have any metal on metal contact when it comes to bearings, so that's why you want to apply the grease liberally, and it'll act as a impermeable surface to stop water from getting in. So now, you want to make sure that there's no sand or anything on your spindle shaft, you want to take this rubber ring, put it on the spindle, and then apply the spindle, the spindle side, the drive side crank, on the right side of the frame, like so. Then, next thing you want to do is take the other side, put that side on, but you want to make sure that the cranks are perfectly parallel and that you don't set one up like this, because that's not going to work. You want to make sure that the cranks are nice and parallel, like so that you don't end up being lopsided when you pedal. Now the tool that you're going to need to screw in the compression bolt, which is the bolt that goes on this side of the crank to compress it all so that you have a nice tight drivetrain, is it comes on most bottom bracket tools on the side there, and you usually wonder what it's used for. Well, it's used for this right here. So it goes on like that. Whoopsies. You just lightly screw it on. When you're screwing on the compression bolt, you don't want to crank it. You want to do it up nice and snugly to where there's no play in the cranks. And then give the cranks a nice spin. Make sure that you don't feel any resistance and you don't feel any grinding. You always want to make sure it's greased and have those rubber interfaces in. Next, you want to take a 5mm Allen key and liberally tighten the pinch bolts to where they're fairly tight. Like that. Next, we're going to put the chainring on. So you need 4 chainring bolts. If it's a 4-bolt chainring, you need your chainring. You need a chainring bolt wrench. And then depending if it's Allen key or Torx bolts that you're working with, usually you need a T25 for the Torx bolts, or a 5mm Allen key if they're Allen bolts. All right, so now installing the chainring. So you want to put the chainring on right here. Let it rest there. Get the backings to your bolts first. And you just want to insert them right there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab one bolt and lightly use your fingers to thread them on. Just to hold it in place for the time being. Whoops. Take the next one. Make sure not to scratch your brand new frame. All right, now, so we're not going to crank them down right away. We're going to wait till we have the rear wheel and the chain installed so that we can properly tighten these with having a nice and balanced chainring, so that it's not pulling more to one side than the other sides. So I will show that in the next part of the video when I have the dropouts to put the back wheel on. So for now, we're just going to tighten these snugly, so we don't lose any of the bolts. Like that. Now, to put the pedals on, you want an 8mm Allen key or a pedal wrench like this one if your pedals don't use an 8mm Allen key and they use the old-fashioned way. Now, you're going to make sure that you have the right sides for the pedals. So you want the right pedal on the right side and the left pedal on the left side. Next, when your bike is upright like this, the pedal will always screw in going this direction towards the front of the bike. Next, a very important thing that you want to do is make sure that you're lightly putting them in at first so that you make sure all the threads are nice and aligned and everything is going on smooth. If it's a struggle to get it on by finger tightening it and you feel some resistance, take it out, reposition the threads, because you really do not want to cross thread the inside of the crank, because then that'll be basically a ruined crank. You'll only be able to use this pair of pedals with this crank. So if you need new pedals, then you're kind of done for. So you just want to tighten them snugly. No need to completely crank them. And then same thing for the left side. Also, I will be doing another video in the future of how to customize your Shimano pedals to where they spin freely like this. That video will be in the near future. Very, very easy task to do, and it's quite fun. Once you have a pedal that spins like that, it's fun to play around with. But yeah, so that's part 1 of my bike build video. I hope you guys enjoyed the introduction, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.